I have been so excited about this tutorial. A little different than your straightforward follow these steps and make a piece. This is going to be a make your own mix and match kind of a project. You're going to pick what you want in the amounts that you want and create all different kinds of creations. This is just one little sample of how you can take such basic shapes, just loops and wraps and spirals, and put something together. As you saw on the thumbnail, there was lots of different examples of how you can take 3 simple shapes, put them together in different varying ways, and come up with style after style after style of earrings or pendants. This is a great, not just do it yourself. This is going to be make it your own kind of project. Going into what you are going to need for this, I'm working with 18 gauge dead soft. You could go to 20 gauge. You could even go up to 16 gauge if you would like. It's going to change some of these measurements. So I'm going to show it to you in 18 gauge, and you can play around from there. Going into the tools, both hammers, a chasing hammer and a nylon hammer. This side. Bail pliers, definitely nylon pliers, and of course cutters, round nose, and some chain nose pliers, and a bench block so you can whack away at some things, maybe get some anger and some tension out. This is a great project for that. You're going to be doing a lot. I'll go through and I'll show you each one and how much wire you'll need and how you can make this happen, and then you take over. You go to town and come up with your own designs. Of course, you can follow after some of those ones that I had on the thumbnail, but I really would love to see what you put together. You can post on my Facebook page. You can email me through my website. I would love that. I would love to hear what you put together. For this first spiral, we are going to need 2 inches of our 18 gauge. Before I even cut it off the spool, I give it a couple run-throughs with my nylon pliers. Flush cut. I guess it's pretty self-explanatory that you will need a ruler. I did not say that, but you know, we'll be measuring things. I got my handy-dandy Smokey the Bear ruler that I use each and every time. I've had it since grade school. Now to start, I use these nylon pliers from Xuron. Now you might have ones that are like this. Just see how tiny that is. Look at that. Wonderful. I mean, really. I could hide this in my purse. This could be a weapon. I'm not joking. It is so sharp and pointy on this end, but it's great for tiny, tiny loops. You often see I use this one. It goes down to 2 millimeters. I want to even go less than that. I want to go smaller. So I'm going to try to get it as close to the end as I can without losing a grip. That is the trick. That is the only problem here. So I'm going to grip it firmly, but say I lost it, and try to go as slow as I can. I'm not going for a full circle. I'm going just for kind of like a little hook here. And then you know how I always say, press near the bail, press near your form. We don't want this in this. We want to pull out from the outside and let that angle start happening. Let that curl start happening all on its own. Now I am right-handed, so I'm turning it so I can get to my right hand, and I'm transitioning to flat nose pliers. These are tweezer nose. You can use whatever you have. And this is how I find for myself that making a spiral works the best. Let me show you also as well. Your pliers might do the same thing, but the closer you get to this jaw, the tighter your grip is going to be. If I hold it just here at the end, you see how I lose grip on that? I want to put where it's starting to bend down in the jaw closest to the pliers. It's a really firm grip in there, and you're going to have the most success if you do it that way. This is a 2-part system. It's more than just putting pliers in there and making a coil. It kind of is echoing that very first movement that we have. It involves this part out here and turning it in, starting to make that coil. Now what I'm doing is, let me get a little something I can point with. I'm watching this gap right here. this is what I'm using to gauge how far do I need to pull it in or coil it or bend, however you want to say. That is the spot that I am watching to see if I've got it equal as I'm going around the coil. Now, I'm still not an expert at this. This takes practice. The more you do it, just like anything, you'll get better. And you can go at this point, make some adjustments. Whoa, we got snow falling off the roof. Trying to get as perfect as you would like it, the shape that you're going for. Now, I'll stop right here because I want to make sure that I've got enough on this other side. And then once they start to meet in the middle, then I can make a little bit more of a wrap or adjust as needed. Same on the other end, except I've got our form facing down because this one we want to be turning back into the opposite direction. Even though we're doing the same motion, it will end up being the opposite. I'm getting on there as close to the end as I can, going slow so I don't lose it like I did the first time. And then I'll turn it this way and look at that shape that is starting to form. I think I'll leave it there and now transition over to your chain nose pliers. And really, a lot of the action is out here. It's turning this in. And I do like to put the jaw of these pliers right where I want the bend to be. This is where I want the bend to start happening. So that's where I'm locking all the rest in place. Anything that's in your pliers is locked in place. So only movement will happen right in here. So once you've got that part where you want it, move it, lock that part of the coil in. And continue just watching that gap for the little shape that you want, however you want it to look. I need to open that a little bit more. That looks good. Lock the rest of that coil in, move my pliers. It's a slow game, you know? This is not something you just rush into. And now I can turn it over and start working on this one again so we get them to meet in the middle. And make adjustments to get it as round as you can. I never get it perfect the first coil. I always have adjustments. And each one of these coils will have a nice organic quality to it that is so lovely in handmade wire-wrapped jewelry. I love that quality. The more I work with it, especially copper, I just love copper. It is so beautiful. So that it's getting to the point when I look at gold now, then I'm like, oh, that's so yellow. I enjoy the pinky orangey tones of copper. Fallen in love with it. How about you? Do you love copper or do you still prefer gold the most? Maybe silver. Let me know. So I'm going to take bench block and my nylon pliers, and I'm going to just work harden this a bit. And then transition to chasing hammer to flatten the coils out. And flattening it out really helps catch the light a little bit more. If you stick with just rounded, you don't quite get that flash of light when it hits. Oh, and another thing that I forgot to tell you is that when I made these, I have put these through the tumbler. So that's why they're even more shiny. I mean, they are just glorious. If you haven't heard of the tumbler, you're not sure how it works or what the purpose is, I will leave a link to a short that I created using the tumbler and showing how it works. It takes so much work out of polishing and all that goodness. I mean, you could get away with just doing that, especially if you're just making stuff for yourself. Forget all that extra little, all the paste and all that stuff that you would use to polish. Just use the tumbler. This is so fantastic. I know you'll love it. Let's do this lovely shape together. Again, we're using our 18 gauge flush cutting. For this shape, we need 3 inches. or 7.5 centimeters, if you go by centimeters. Did you see my last video? Oh my goodness, and how I said millimeters the whole stinking video when I meant centimeters. I know the difference. I have no idea why I did that, other than I was talking about the millimeters of the beads and just kept on saying millimeters. But you all are so gracious and so kind, and apparently you're on the ball. You're with it because you knew what I meant, and I appreciate that. I'm grabbing my bail pliers. I am using the 5th step, which is 7 millimeters, to make this first larger loop in the center. This is where we will be pressing near the bail. Now, I don't have it quite centered. You see how one is a little bit longer than the other? Not a problem. I'm going to press the side that's longer, pull out this one that's a little shorter, turn on my pliers to get it back in that position I want, and now they're equal. I often run into that, and that's how you solve that without having to bend the wire back out and try to find the middle or even marking it. You can eyeball it and then go from there. I do want these to crisscross, so I'll get them started a little bit. And I just take a thumb, a finger, or whatever, and slide it down in the middle until I think I left a little bit of a gap. I didn't perfectly round it. I want a bit of a teardrop shape. To check to see if I've made the loop small enough, I'll use ruler. And I was going for about 1 inch, and it's not quite there. So that tells me I need to put it back on here and push it in just slightly tighter. And that's going to add a little more length to these side tails, sidebars, however you want to say it. Now I've just got about 1 inch. So, and like I said, this is a very organic project. Each one of these coils is going to have a life of its own, and I love that. Okay, I'm doing this the same thing that I did with it starting the S coil. We're taking round nose pliers, as small as we can get it, on the end, holding firmly, just going slow so we don't lose it because it wants to pop out. And then I'm going to turn it like this to see the angle of the coil I got going. A spiral, however you would like to say it. Coils and spirals and loveliness, all of it. Now that I got it going, it's the same thing. Transitioning to chain nose pliers. I've kind of like what this is doing so far. So what I'll do, I'll put that inside the pliers, lock that into place. So the only thing that's moving and bending is what's out here in my left hand. I wish I could demonstrate to you with my left hand. I unfortunately am not ambidextrous. I'm going to teach my husband, and he can show you. He's left-handed. And there we have one, and you can make some adjustments. If you find you need to make it a little more rounder, or bring it in some more, I like to kind of just leave it where it is until I get the other one going, and then I can make adjustments to make them match. Same process, same beginning here. You can see my hand. I'm starting like this so that I can turn in this motion. I find I have the most control, and it's easier on my hand. And turn so I can see what it's doing. Pulling from out here and holding firmly with my right hand. I'm just kind of let the wire do itself, do its own thing. Haven't you noticed each time you'll do a movement or you'll do one of these shapes, like each one has its own quality to it, you know? They're like your children. You can have 10 kids with the same husband and they're all totally different. I don't have 10 kids. Hello. I only have 3. Although one of my very good friends, she has 11. She's amazing. I'm telling you what, the woman is a beast. Amazing. how she runs such a lovely home. That's not me though. I'm 5'1", and all my kids were over 8 pounds. My last one was 8'8". I'm telling you what, there's some big babies. I can't be doing that 11 times. I don't know if there'd be anything left of me. So here, as you can see, we've got this lovely little shape. And we're going to bring in nylon hammer. And we're going to lock this crisscross area in with this nylon. Chasing hammer to flatten out our coils and all our lovely shapes. You have to be really careful because I have hammered the edge of my finger and it busted open just like I had cut it. So be very careful when you're doing this so close to your fingers. And here's where I also can make more adjustments. It's all flexible, still in a creative moment here where we can adjust if we need to. I don't know what you call that, but that's what we got. We got our little S coil. We've got one more shape to do. It's kind of this 4-leaf clover. This, believe it or not, uses the most amount of wire. It's going to take 3.5 inches of our 20 gauge wire. Before I even cut it, I'm running it through my nylon pliers. This gives a little pre-strengthening. It kind of cleans the wire a little bit too. Plus, most important, makes it nice and straight and gets all those pesky kinks out. Flush cutting, measure 3.5 inches. This one starts just a tad different. I'm going back to my bail pliers. This is all we'll be using for these. And I'm going to go with the second step, which is 3 millimeters on my pliers. A lot of these bail pliers start with 3 millimeters, so you should be good. These are Beadsmith. These are the ones that I found go down to 2 millimeters. So if you're looking for a little something smaller, these are a good one. Same beginning action. We want it right on the end. I'm holding firmly and going slowly so I don't lose it and it pops out of the pliers. Turning my hand a little bit so I can keep pushing it over there to make that first loop. Don't move your left hand at all. We're turning the pliers in our right hand. And we just came down to the left side of it, leaving just a little gap like we did from our last video. I showed you leaving a gap before you bring it around so that the wire goes into that little channel. I can turn it just to give myself a little more room to push it. There. I was struggling with that one a little bit. I don't know why. Don't you have that? Do you have that issue when you've done something a million times and then you go to do it and you're like, what the world? Why isn't it working now? Now, if you saw something I just did, it was a little too far. I'm going to outdo it again. It was coming out a little too much like that. Too much of a little gap. And what I did was I just turned it in so that these two loops are touching. But then it made this tail, it was sticking more up like this. So all you do is I turn it in and then push that down a little bit. So we want it coming out the center of the shape here. Now I'm going to turn it on the other side. I'm going to hold it just like that with your 2 loops on this side, but this crossover is on the top. I don't know if you can see how the light catches to show you that that's now on the top. Taking your pliers, placing it like that on your form. We're going to be wrapping around this second bail and channeling the wire through this gap. Unfortunately, it's a little hard to press near the bail with that, so you're going to have to pull out from the end of the tail. But that's okay. We're going to make it work anyway. Now at this point, you can take some chain nose pliers, and we just want to line all this up. See how I pulled that down to get it all parallel? I check it from this side, make sure my loops are level. That one, did I check that one or was it this one? Doesn't matter, it's all good. All got to be done anyway. Okay, so this part is a little nerve-wracking. I've tried different ways of accessing this last area for the final loop. I put it in here like this, and that didn't work because the distance is just that single wire instead of two, and then it was all messed up. It wasn't where it was supposed to be. So this is going to be a little nerve-wracking. Don't pay attention to what I'm doing right now. I just see a kink. I had to take the smallest bail on my pliers, and I had to slide it in here in this little gap to make this loop. This final loop. Turn it on your pliers and bring it in to make that final shape. And then you can push it back together. I know it's so nerve-wracking when you spend all that time to getting the most perfect little petals, if you will, and then you have to bend it back out. But fortunately, wire is forgiving and we can bend it right back. Now we just need to trim this tail. What I'm doing is taking flush cutters, the flat side, and I'm looking where this wire behind the tail, the one that's going straight up and down here, and I'm placing my pliers along the edge of that wire and just trimming the tail. I'm just adjusting if needs be. Okay, so, and see how there's a little gap? I mean, it's so minuscule, but there's that little gap and we want them to sit closer. Push it past the meeting place, and then they'll sit down right next to each other. Jump rings work the same way. And I'm just going to try and make that tail that we just trimmed sit down in there. I can wiggle them and they'll sit together. It's pretty amazing. That little maneuver of just wiggling things back and forth makes it sit together without messing up your form. You'll see me do this a lot with lots of different things. And there we have the most adorable 4-leaf clover, I don't know, some type of filigree shape. I'm not sure. It's so perfect, isn't that? And you can take these 3 shapes and come up with the most amazing earrings, pendants. I'm not sure what I was doing here. I don't know if that was a bracelet or these going to be long earrings. I was just playing around. So remember how we did this one with 7 millimeters and I kind of brought it in close to the bail? This was with 9 millimeters and I extended it out about 1 inch and then put the same coils. So flexible. These shapes are so... What did I do here? I mean this one. This shape too. Oh my goodness. I'm okay. So let's put a little something together with this 24 gauge. I think we'll use maybe some of these. And one of those little cute things that we made. And I'll show you how to anchor it all together. Oh yes, come on, that's going to be beautiful. As always, I'm taking my nylon pliers and just getting all the kinks out, making sure we have a perfect piece of wire. Probably cutting maybe 3 or 4 inches. I'm going to guess. I'm going to cut here. That looks maybe 3 1/4 inches, 3 1/2. What is it? Ooh, what is it? Oh, come on, 3 1/4 inches. I'm going to start with that we're going to attach this little 4-leaf clover to this. Okay, believe it or not, I've already recorded this multiple times. And the one time I recorded it, I wasn't even in the shot. I was way out here and you couldn't see anything. We're going to get this right because I insist on having clear, great instructions that you can clearly see. That is what I really want for you in my tutorials. Great explanations, great instruction that you can clearly see. I'm no gatekeep in here. I want to show you exactly what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, so you can be successful as well. So here I am again. I will do this as many times as possible so that I get it where you can understand. Okay. So I take this piece. I'm going to take a little tail of this 24 gauge that I cut yesterday. And then I'm just holding it together like that. And we want to wrap these together. So I'll grab this piece from this little design that we put together. Now I'm going to tell you, this is a little fiddly to begin with. But once it starts coming together, it's going to lock in place. Still holding that, all 3 pieces, well, 2 pieces in the wire together. Leaving this little channel open so I can slide the wire through. Keeping it clean, meaning no kinks. Keep your nylon your nylon pliers handy so we can keep the wire kink free. Aiming for that open space. Use your pliers if you need to get a secure grasp and go very slow, really guiding that wire to sit down next to the other one. You can use your fingernails. That won't mar your wire. That's very gentle to line them up. And I'm going to go for about 4. I think that works better. The first time I did 5, and it was just a little too much. They were bunching up in the middle. We don't want that either. I've got 3, so I'm going to go for 4. One more here to anchor this side. I don't know if you notice, I'm not pulling this way. I'm pulling back around in a circular shape. I want the wire to go in a circular shape, so I'm pulling it around in a circular shape. Telling you what, your hand muscles will be very fine-tuned and strong doing this. I'm just going to line up this piece, the piece that we're attaching, before I go to attach the other side. Now this, you have an option. I would do what I'm getting ready to show you for this, but you do have an option of just wrapping the side with a single piece of wire and then wrapping this other side with another single piece of wire. But since there's clearly like a front and a back and it's right next to each other, all I'm going to do is just bring this over to the other side and do the same 4 wraps on the other side. I mean, let's not complicate this. Let's not make it harder than it has to be. Please. Just take your time. I've mentioned before in some other videos, that was one of my biggest hurdles. It's just learning to slow down and really hone in on your craft, really bring perfection to your pieces. You see how it was getting like that? I was watching this position as I'm anchoring these final wraps. Oh, and while I got you here, thank you so much for your wonderful comments. You ladies, you gents, absolutely wonderful. I love doing the tutorials. I love this channel. I'm so enjoying it. And really, the best part is you. So I appreciate you being here. Honestly, truly, blesses me. I've got one more wrap to do here, so I'll have 4 on each side. I have to adjust my hand because it's pokes and stuff and gouges on the other side. See? Oh, look, there's another earring there. All right, so I think these wraps are looking good. Making sure that this is positioned right up in that little gap nicely. This is my front, so I want to take this little tail and wrap it to the back so I can trim. And there we have wonderful, we've wrapped that together. And to do the other side, it's exactly the same process. I'll do that and come back around with a final piece. I'm back after I attached the other side, and I'm just taking nylon hammer and I'm very, very lightly locking the shape in, locking the wraps in, work hardening it some more. Here is our finished pieces. The one that I made from yesterday that it was all over here and you couldn't see anything. And here is the one that I made with you today, or put it together at least. And I added this little Swarovski crystal. Adding that just add a little extra sparkle. You could also add something in the middle of these spaces instead of dangling. That is always an option, or just leaving it plain like that. I use 20 gauge, dead soft wire for ear wires. It's a typical gauge for ear wires. And I'm not even going to measure. I'm going to think that's about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. Really, really basic here. The ones that I always do. I take bail pliers because they're consistent. You have great control. Same maneuver we always start with wire right on the end, going nice and slow until we made our first loop here. This will be the loop that you attach the ear wire to. Turning pliers, I want to position my wire so I have access to this 5th step, which is 7 millimeters. So I have it like this and I have it pulled through. I can't pull it anymore. It's nice and snug. Pressing near those pliers and that bail, I'm going to press it on around till it just touches that, bounces back. And that is basically your ear wire. You could leave this long to go with that, or we can go ahead and just trim that. I still want it kind of long because I think it would be really pretty. Taking those same bail pliers and put a little bend on the end of that. Chain nose pliers to open that little loop, that very first one we made. Easy as that. You slide on your earring that you put together. How lovely is that? See how that flattening just catches the light? So you could take a few moments in your day. It did not take me long to do these at all, honestly. You could make up a bunch, and these could be almost your beads, your findings, your connecting pieces that you made, and you can resource from your own stash of things that you made and make your own wonderful variations of earrings using 3 shapes. How wonderful is that? I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, learning some coils, learning some spirals, learning how to use those bail pliers, and how you can take wonderful classic shapes and make something unique, something new, something different each and every time with something truly basic but is truly unique. As always, I had a great time. Thank you for all your wonderful comments and sharing how much you're loving the videos and the instruction. And I hope I'll see you again next time for some more great fun with a friend.